All right, hi Mikayla. So hopefully you got part A worked out and you got the dc/dt to come out to 5 grams per year. In part 2, they're asking how much cocoa they should have to maximize the sales. So sales are X. And so if we want to maximize X, we have to find dx/dt, because everything is according to like per year, so it has to be according to time. We have to find that, and then we have to set it equal to 0 in the next step, okay? And so you found the derivative in part A. You did this, and I think that I'm hoping, oops, sorry, I made a mistake. Okay, I'm hoping that you did like -2c dc/dt. This is what you sent me. You did this part, right? Minus 2s ds/dt, and that's just going to come out because it's constant, and then minus 2b db/dt. Okay, then the part that I think you didn't have was plus 310 dc/dt plus 250, oh, that must be s there, I think, ds/dt. And then let's move this over so we can get the whole thing in, plus 500 db/dt. So the only one that's going to come out as a 0 is this constant 112150. All right, so if that's our derivative, then let's just make this a wee bit smaller so we can see it all at once. Oh dear, okay, there we go. We're going to set it equal to 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in all the values that we know, and those transfer from part A to part B. And then in part A, we also calculated dc/dt, which is 5 grams per year for the cocoa. So the only thing we don't know is C, the actual amount of cocoa. So that's going to be our unknown. That's what we're solving for. The dc/dt is 5. The ds is just constant, so we're just going to take that out. And then the butter is 2 times 300 times -10 per year, because we know the db/dt. And then we're just going to carry on with 310 times 5 plus, we don't need ds/dt, that's 0. And then the last one is 500 times db/dt, which again is 10. So if you work that out, the only thing you don't know is C. And C is right here in this term. So if you add all those other things together and you solve for C, you're going to get C equals, I think it's 255, but I can't recall unless I look at the other videos that I made from the other students. But that's how you handle B, okay? Okay, for part C, there's 2 ways to approach that. One is we could look at it as the limit as C approaches infinity. In other words, as C gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the concentration of cocoa, what happens to the overall sales? And so you could look at the limit as C approaches infinity of the sales function, which is x equals blah, 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 right? And you could try different values. If you're at 255 in B, you could keep going up, like 300, 500, 1000, and see what's happening. And then you could make a prediction based on that and say, you know, like the more cocoa we put in, if we leave everything the same, the less money we're going to make, because it's going to be gross, and eventually our sales will hit 0. And that should be the limit that you're heading towards when you try all those bigger values. The other way to approach this is if you look at the derivative, which is your slope for the function, if you look at the original function, x equals, and you fill in everything but the c values, so you have c squared, and then I think, what was the other one, 310 times c, yeah. and then all the other things would be filled in because they're going to be held constant, then you're going to get like a constant value to add here, and that's going to give you a quadratic. And a quadratic is a parabola when you graph it, and a negative quadratic is an upside down parabola when you graph it. And so what we have found is the maximum already in the previous parts of the question. And so mathematically what we could do is treat this as sort of solving the parabola. We know that we have zero profit or zero sales if we haven't made any of these cookies or whatever it is we're making. I guess this guy likes to bake Nanaimo bars. And then there's also a zero on the other end where our sales are coming down, 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 and we eventually hit zero. And so we wouldn't probably go into negative sales because then we would be losing money, right? We would probably close shop if we were not selling anything. If our what are we making? It doesn't even say. Oh, I don't even know. Just the recipe is probably Nanaimo bars again because he seems to like those. Or is it cake poisoning? No, I don't know. There must be a story behind this. So if you can solve to find this point, that would be another mathematical proof of what's going to happen to this company as they add more and more cocoa but keep the other ingredients the same. And so in that case, what you would be doing is solving for C, and you would be using the quadratic formula, which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's going to give you this c, which is when you started, and it's going to give you this c, which is where it ends when it actually hits zero sales again. So again, mathematically, you would be proving that that's where it's tending to. It's going to go back down to zero sales. So both of those methods are mathematical. It just depends on which one you want to use. The other thing that you could say is if you were looking at your derivative, dx dt, which is the change in profit or the change in sales over time, you could show that that's going to go to infinity because like here we're at zero in terms of our slope. Here we've got a negative slope, it's going down, but here it's much more negative, and by the time we get here, it's vertical, and that's a slope of infinity, which means that our change in sales over time is like decreasing. It should be like negative infinity, sorry, decreasing over time exponentially. So we're showing that it's heading towards negative infinity as a slope, which means that it's not a real value, and negative means that it's decreasing rapidly to the lowest possible value that it could be in terms of the change in sales over the change in time, like the change in sales per year. So that's 3 different ways that you could approach part C, and I'll let you decide how you want to do that, okay?